Well, just into the newsroom, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is facing questions after an announcement. Let's take a listen.
I expect it to flow continuously, just like the jobs. Continuous naval shipbuilding will result in continuous investment here in South Australia. Well, they're the figures that have come from the authority itself, as $30 billion is the estimate. We'll continue, of course, as this rolls out, to provide that investment, $3.9 billion up front as a down payment. That's for the early works that will be required as well. We are already off and running here, whether it be the investment in infrastructure here or whether it's investment in people through the skills and training agenda that will be required. Well, I tell you what, they're pretty keen, the workers who I've met here today, and one of the things that will happen, just like for previous generations in South Australia, the car industry provided a real focal point and you had intergenerational skills. There are people here, the young women who we met, one of whom was 20, she has a job here for life. Just think about that. In today's world where technology changes the nature of work, what this provides here is an opportunity for people to say, this is what I am going to do. For the rest of my life, I will have a secure job, it will be highly paid, and it will be rewarding as we go forward. Well, what we'll do is we always have appropriate security, but you might have noticed that one of the things that we have done through BAE as well is take some of the skills that have been produced there. I've been to the facility, as has the Premier, as has the Minister there in the north of England. There will be some transfer and some interaction between the BAE systems people, which is natural so that those skills are imparted.
Prime Minister, the Premier has often said that the biggest challenge for this project is developing enough skilled workers. What's your message to other stakeholders about that challenge, but also the opportunities that this project is?
This represents an extraordinary opportunity for people to have good, secure, well-paid jobs. The fact that we are setting up here on site this skills centre that will make an enormous difference, producing 1,000 apprentices each and every year will make an enormous difference. And one of the things that my government has concentrated on is making sure, unlike the previous government that never talked about TAFE. You know, you can Google Hansard for some of the leaders of my predecessors, the three Liberal Prime Ministers, and see how often they talked about TAFE. It was dismissed. The truth is that we have now some 725,000 Australians have enrolled in free TAFE courses. They are starting to graduate now. It has changed the nature of the way that we deal with building up a skilled workforce. The $10,000 electrical apprenticeship payments that we introduced as part of our 2022 election commitments. What we've done is extend that across the construction sector as well, so that people who are working here will have that incentive as well going forward in construction and electrical. If you provide the right incentives, what you can have is good, well-paid, secure jobs going forward, and what we're seeing is people taking it up. Well, I think people in the Liberal Party will despair that Susan Lee, elected as leader of the Liberal Party just months ago, wasn't even given the opportunity to give one budget reply speech. It's up to the Liberal Party, of course, to defend their own internal processes. But the truth is that if you look at the government and then what some see as the alternative government, my government has a majority of women in our caucus. We have a majority of women around our cabinet table. That includes two outstanding South Australian women in Penny Wong and Amanda Rishworth in very senior roles in our government. And you compare that with what we've seen on the other side of politics, and they just don't seem to get it. We want a parliament that looks like Australia, and that's why the diversity in our ranks as well means that we're stronger. And I think it's no accident that a government that has more than 50% women in it has prioritised closing the gender pay gap that's at a record low, making sure that feminised industries such as childcare and aged care get proper wage increases, which is what we have delivered, that we have the largest ever women's health program, particularly focusing on issues like reproductive health, the fact that we're the first government in decades to list a new contraceptive on the PBS is quite frankly extraordinary. So we continue to focus because gender equity is something that's a focus of my government. We've appointed women to senior roles, including of course Her Excellency the Governor-General, but also as Head of Treasury, Head of the Reserve Bank, Head of ASIC. We continue to make sure that we're a government that represents all Australians. I think when you look at the Liberal Party and the National Party, they seek to talk about themselves and represent each other. We want to represent all Australians.
Another AUKUS question. What's your message to critics of Adelaide-based submarine who argue that it's both unaffordable and unachievable?
Well, it is affordable. That's why we're providing tough decisions, but providing in our budget, in our fiscal policy, but we're also making sure that Australia can defend ourselves. We inherited a Defence Department that had rolling ministers. We had no consistency. We had announcements and then nothing happened. We had to pay the French billions of dollars to not build anything for Australia. We had an agreement prior to that with the Japanese. It rolled around. What we're doing, as Minister Conroy has said, is to actually deliver, whether it be the investment here, the investment in missiles, the investment in projects like Ghost Bat. These things are making an enormous difference as well. We don't just talk about defence, we're delivering real capability. Well, we're very confident. I've sat down with President Trump in person, as you will have seen, and had a number of discussions with the President, but other members of the administration as well. This is in the interests of the United States, in the interests of the UK, and in the interests of Australia. And that is why this is a project that is progressing in accordance with not just the principles, but the plan of action which we are rolling out. When we came to office, when I became Prime Minister, and that was in a day when oppositions actually backed government policy when it was appropriate to do so, we did that. I did that as opposition leader, but we inherited essentially a framework without the detail or the substance underneath it. What we've done is delivering the substance and the detail, and we're doing that here again today. Sorry? We'll have our budget in May. And what we've done when it comes to tax, the policy that we have is to deliver a tax cut in July for all 14 million Australian workers and another one the year after. Angus Taylor led the charge to not only oppose our tax cuts, but to say that he would legislate, if he had have been elected Treasurer in the election less than a year ago, that he would legislate to actually increase the taxes for all 14 million Australians. That's a big tax debate here in Australia. A government that is committed to lowering taxes for working people, particularly targeted at lower middle income earners, which is why we're lowering that first marginal tax rate. And Angus Taylor, who went to the election as Shadow Treasurer with higher taxes and bigger deficits. Well, Angus must have been beside himself when he was a minister in the government, because he had, in the figures that were released in 2019 in the MyEFO, a plan that by 2030 there would have been 754,000 more people here under the Liberals and Nationals than what we are projecting. Well, they're not staying as they are. We've reduced them. We've cut migration by 40% in a year. Thanks.
Prime Minister Anthony Albanese a short time ago, and more on that announcement. A $30 billion nuclear-powered submarine shipyard. It's going to be constructed in Adelaide as the preparations ramp up to build the nation's first AUKUS submarines. The Osborne Naval Shipyard, it's going to be expanded into a state-of-the-art submarine construction yard, employing more than 4,000 people. And the Prime Minister says that the yard construction will be highly complex to facilitate the installation of nuclear reactors in AUKUS submarines. That's according to the Adelaide Advertiser as well. And the construction of the first AUKUS submarine, that is expected to start in the late 2020s.